Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. Welcome everybody to my independence report, and this is Life Between Lives, and this is what we talk about on Monday at 4:00. And everybody seems to be healthy, happy, and hanging out. So, Regan, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm great. I just wish I could figure out this screen thing, but like I say on Zoom and Skype and everything, it's just fine. But I'll have to work on that afterwards. So you just see me up here in space. That's what it's like. It's
all
like
right.
outer space somewhere.
You look great. And Natasha, how are you? How was your day?
Doing well. Not like last week where the eclipse was happening and everything was going on in the playground, because I work at the elementary school level, and it's like if I heard one more person tattling or hitting another one, I was gonna go. But at the same time, though.
And those are just the teachers.
No. 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 It's called just everybody's the last week of school. So everybody's kind of like going, I don't have to listen to anybody. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to listen to anybody. And it's like, we're all done, cooked and fried.
They're grumpy and they want to get the hell out. It's summertime. It's nice. And it's supposed to be nice next week. So,
yeah. But at the same time though, when things come to an end, it's amazing how many don't want it to end, because a lot of our students, we have a high ratio of, on breakfast free lunch ratio and breakfast and a lot of the kids, this is their sanity place, amazingly enough. The chaoticness of 30 kids in a classroom and 7 to 10 of them are not wanting to pay attention to the teacher, that's actually calmness for them. And it's kind of sad that you have so many kids that their parents don't know to do better, and there's no judgment here. They just don't know better to do better. And, and it's just where we are in life. Everybody has a different path.
Well, that's true. And especially if they're getting subsidized breakfasts and lunches and they're worried about what they're going to eat next week.
I think they worry about that. But at the same time, though, it's interesting how many times that's the last of what they're worried about. They're worried more about who's liking them, where are they going to be for that night? Food is just kind of the cherry on top of the ice cream, if they even think about that concept. It's sad what our humans have to go through nowadays, and the kids are part of that human road.
Well, that's true. So, we had like hours of prep time. So, a long time to figure out what we're going to talk about today. So, and Natasha came up with a great idea. So did Regan. So what are we going to talk? What was your great idea?
Regan.
Well, I've just been lost in this, since I started that Gaia subscription, where they have all this stuff about spiritual stuff, documentaries and people supposedly in the know about the bigger stuff. And they have 7 sessions of cosmic disclosure. And like I was talking last week, about that guy that said he was on Mars, fighting aliens and everything. And I watched some other sessions, and there were some very believable people. Matter of fact, a gentleman from Peru, he's been talking to government agencies, talking all over, but he's had contact with aliens and things in Peru for many, many years. And it's all about, we were talking about portals and things, and he was talking about just his name, gosh, I should have written it down, but because everything he's speaking in Spanish and there's a translator or something, but I just like the guy, he just seemed like a really beautiful soul. The aliens he's been contacting with, he had pictures drawn of them, and they look kind of like us a lot, but they're a type. I guess he put them in a type 4 civilization, and we're just getting to type 1. And they're trying to help us, and they're saying that the government has some of the information about portals, and they've been trying to hack into these portals, but they've been unsuccessful so far because the aliens say they haven't raised the consciousness of their heart yet. And he says once they do, they'll have access to these other things. But right now we're too kind of low key on the spectrum,
Well, it's all about intention.
Intention, that's what they say, yeah.
It's all about intention, and most of us don't have the right intention when it comes to navigating, especially when, and we all are human, and the role that the governmental people play, they're in this lifetime, they're not really learning about integrity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, like we've talked about last week with the God. I had a migraine again yesterday, so my brain's still a little bit fried for words. I can do spiritual work. It's just the words coming out of my human mouth. Skywalker Ranch. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm leaving them up to giving me.
Yeah.
And you could tell who has integrity, and they let them do things. And the ones that are just doing it to do things, they're not letting them do anything. That's when their phones start going weird. That's when the radiation stuff comes up. It's all about the integrity and who shows what and what shows who and all that kind of stuff. So that's what if I've had anything, I would ask people to start checking into what is their integrity when they're walking their path.
Yeah. And they said these type 4 civilization says, I don't know when this was filmed, but they said from 2020 to 2027, we were to expect a whole lot of upheaval here, and it's going to be people testing just to see if they can raise their level of awareness and love, and it's very important, like in the work we're doing and a lot of other people doing, to try to raise the consciousness of people, because if we, after the 7 years, if we haven't kind of passed that test, we're not going to be at that level, and it's going to be a hard ride for us down here. So I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, I've noticed, like on Quora, I've been spending about an hour a day answering questions about the afterlife with people, which has been really good, and getting some back and forth. And of course, there's some skeptics in there that, they don't care about research or anything that we're doing. They just got their minds made up that there's no such thing as an afterlife, no such thing as a soul. Boy, I just, in the negativity that I feel in their answers and stuff, you can just feel that downward pull, so all I do is say, well, look, I'm just a researcher. Here's the research, and you can do with it what you want.
So do they claim to be atheist?
Yeah, well, either atheists, or they don't even go that far. They just say, this is it. They're just here. Some of them try to give scientific reasons, like, the way the brain works and everything, that when the brain's gone, there's no consciousness. It's just, just nothing. And they don't see the other side. I really like, for people watching, it's called Hacking the Afterlife. And that's the Richard Martini I was talking about. And he's the one that was the skeptic that became a believer, because he did the research, like he filmed over 50 sessions of Newton Institute, different therapists, not just the same one, but he chose different therapists, filmed 50 sessions, and he became a believer really quick, because he says, this is just, everybody's having the same experience here. And it's all this good love, stuff. And he's the one that I was telling Natasha about too, that tried to trick a bunch of mediums, and found out with these certain ones, you can't trick them, and that it was, and so he's become a real believer in mediumship too. So, but his name's Richard Martini, and just Hacking the Afterlife. He has about 44,000 followers now on his site, and he does a show every once in a while. But it's nice because he's just coming to it from a regular guy's viewpoint, saying, look, I was curious about this stuff. I've studied it for 30 years now, done all this kind of stuff, and look, there's some real truth here, you know. So it's just nice,
Well,
people go from skeptic to believer. Like I think all of us kind of came that way, but maybe in a more gentle way or just over a period of time. I think with most of you, what about, let me ask you guys here, like, like with me, it was just this journey, like in college, I took what do you call it when you study a bunch of different religions, like the courses they give, alternative religions in college, they have classes on stuff. And I'd only been Catholic. So even learning about Protestants was something new to me in college, and learning about, Hindus and Buddhism and all that. And I'd never been exposed to that. So I always was a little bit, if it was beyond what I'd taught, I always had to think about it for a while, but slowly, just over years, it just became a true believer in that. So anyway, I don't know, like Natasha, I think kind of knew coming out of the womb, she was already there, but it's been harder for me. What about you, Kevin?
As far as spiritual beliefs,
I mean, did you get a lot of your belief in this other stuff by just interviewing people and doing kind of the research you've been doing?
No.
I before.
No. I was a Lutheran growing up, and I was a Lutheran, and I grew up in the late '60s. And in the late '60s, there was something called the Charismatic Movement. Are you familiar with it? For some of you younger folks won't have any idea what I'm talking about, but there was a time when in the Christian religion or in the Lutheran religion in some of the churches, there was this charismatic movement where everybody was getting high on the Lord. Everybody was speaking in tongues, and they were doing all this stuff. And I never could grasp that. It never resonated with me. I couldn't speak in tongues. And I even had, at one time, I had 6 people praying over me, telling me I needed to speak in tongues. Never could figure it out, never could master it, never wanted to. It wasn't until I read about this book, I walked into a metaphysical shop and I picked up Journey of Souls, and that was quite literally the beginning for me, because I had gone to church, and I was, went to parochial school and all that stuff, and none of that resonated with me, but Dr. Newton's work did resonate with me, and so that led me to Neil Donald Walsh and tons of really interesting people, and that became the basis of what I believe today, which is that basically that we're all one, and there's nothing they have to do to go to heaven. You already are there. And Kayla, how about yourself? By the way, Kayla, do you know today is her birthday? No, Saturday was her birthday.
Oh,
Saturday wasn't my birthday.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. It was a park reunion.
And it was your birthday because you became psychic at that moment. It was really a unique experience for her.
No, I did. I went to a park reunion, and I can say, Natasha, I took your advice on just going with the first thing that pops into your mind from your guides. And I went with the first thing that popped in, and everything popping right out on the nose, just like that. It was remarkable, really, and pretty cool.
I wanted to ask you guys now, especially you, Natasha, and Regan, in your work. See, I'm seeing this happen more and more. I'm seeing people that are breaking down through the veil, and people coming to talk to them and stuff. And I'm seeing more of that. And Natasha, do you think that that's what their intention is to raise the vibration through all of us by making it easier for us to access the gifts that you have?
I would say so. And the reason is because when we work in the mind controls a lot of our interactions. And the interactions aren't something that flows. It's part of the clock that says it's 1 o'clock. Well, I'm supposed to be maybe someplace at 1 o'clock, but my internal clock, my inner knowing clock says, well, I should have been there 5 minutes earlier. And that would have been the better flow than at 1 o'clock, because I'm behind at 1 o'clock. because everybody else was there 5 minutes earlier. So with that, when we work with the flow and that trust, the key, Kayla, was that you trusted, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And when we trust more, we're in the flow of that synchronicity. We're in the flow of that trusting the greater good. And so we will get more in sync with where life is putting us. And that's the gift that we're going to that higher dimension is that because it's that stepping into, oh, I can actually flow. I don't need to keep hitting my head against the wall. I don't need to keep tripping over the rock. I'll look where I'm going, and it doesn't always have to be with the eyes. Most of our vision, like I had a class where I did some work and we were going down through a dark forest. And she said that, most of you will be scared. And actually, I was least scared because my senses is what I trusted. I trusted when something was coming around the corner because I had I call them my cat whiskers. We're out, and that helped me, to navigate with what it is. Now, does my cat whiskers help me when I'm in a group full of 6th grade students and I don't really want to go when they're all having 6th grade moment? No, I go send the mother in that's dealt with 6th grade kids. Mine were pretty easy, and is used to that energy. For me, my cat whiskers are almost too stimulated. So there again, it's that plus or the minus. But that is the key is that, it's that trusting that inner voice, being in sync with life means that you're trusting your inner gut, your mind heart, your mind gut, balanced with your mind. And then you're listening to the inner voice of, like my husband says, you have so many voices in your head. And I go, yeah, because it's my higher self, my soul, my guides, it's like all these different voices, but yet at the same time, they all say the same thing. Go here, go there, do this, do that, say this, say that. But they all say it in a different way.
I have a question for Kayla, because Kayla, you and I are in the same boat right here. I think we're trying to learn how to tune into that, that voice that's always talking to us. And I was just realizing too, like when I'm in session with someone and I'm help them to go to the afterlife, when I'm in session with them, I seem to naturally be in like a Natasha thing. I mean, it just seems like everything just happens. I seem to know the questions to ask. I feel like I'm there with them. But then once the session is over and it's just me going around, I think I switch that off. But I'd like to have that switch on during when I'm just even out playing golf or something, just to have that on more. So I seem to be able to tune into that. But like Kayla, I didn't quite understand. You say you were with a group of relatives or something this weekend?
In high school, well, I'll just put it out there, I had a stoner group of friends. So we would go to the park and we would just, go smoke, go back to school, or hang out down there all day.
Yeah.
Well, we decided to have a barbecue this Saturday. About 35 adults, 10, 15 kids showed up. So these were all people that I hung out with in school as a high schooler. And we just had a barbecue. I brought my tarot cards and I sat down at the table, did one reading, and the vibe at the table and the conversation that we had leading towards the end, I could feel, and everyone there could feel that I physically shut myself off at 7:30. I left, and everybody that was there, the remaining 15 people, they left the same time I left. But they were so in tune with the vibrations and the things that were coming out of my mouth that they were intrigued and had to listen, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, matter of fact, Kayla and Natasha, I mean, everybody's heard of tarot cards and everything. And to me, that was always, like when you see psychics by the road and they look in a crystal ball, or they have the tarot cards. So it seemed kind of that whole concept seemed, way out there. But how does that work with the tarot cards? I mean, how does that open a person's psychic ability? Because I think just like me and people watching this, they had no clue how that works. How do tarot cards work?
Well, you're Catholic, so that the tarot cards are of the devil.
Of course.
Yes.
just like a Ouija board or something.
Well, Ouija
Well,
board.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, we're all going no. Ouija boards. That just stay away from that.
Well, what I'm saying is it's in the same, from a person's perspective, that's in the same category when they don't understand anything, So maybe
Right.
you guys can educate me and whoever's listening there on, in tarot cards in their highest sense, how is it how do they work? How does that work?
I personally sit down and I shuffle my cards in threes because I always do things in threes. And I asked my guides, do you have any advice for me? And then I will lay my 10 cards out in my galactic cross and I'll just go with that. And the advice that I get and the input that I get could be a situation that just happened with Kevin and me beginning this podcast experience and journey. And so I was getting my verification from that. So when I sit down and I open myself and my tarot deck up, I'm opening myself up to everyone's energy flow. And like I told Kevin, I may not have been able to physically see all the guides. I could feel their vibration of each and every single one of them around that circle. And that was the most intense feeling ever. That's the vibration level you want to be in. So it's just guidance. Natasha might know a little more better about it when it comes to tarot reading. She might have more decks than me, but it's just, you go with your guides. I tap in differently and I pick up on mixed emotions if they're eating bad hot dogs or pickles, or if they're having a nightmare. I randomly pick up on tidbits of things when I'm doing a reading through a tarot card.
Well, maybe even for me from the beginning, all I've seen is tarot cards at a distance. And I know there's one that's got like skeletons or whatever. And that's what, to me, when I thought, oh man, this is like voodoo or something, but
It's a lot of times it's the death card. A lot of people get freaked out by the death card.
Yeah.
But the death card is actually more life in it than anything. But I want to take this opportunity because there are different facets of card readings.
Yes.
So let's go with cards. So cards are a doorway for us to be out of the way. It's kind of like using a pendulum. It's outside of us. It's a tool outside of us that gives us a chance. So you can have a deck, let's say, like I use the Oracle of the Wisdom deck a lot of times, Wisdom Avalon. And so if you wanted to, you could pull a deck or a card that pulls to you, and then you can open up to the number and you can read what that card represents. And then that sings to you. So that's one level. Now, another level is that you might pull a deck or a card open. Oh, the owl, let's say. Well, I know that the owl, from my history, represents seeing in the dark. It represents that magic and I think about an owl. How does an owl hunt? How does an owl? So you think about the different aspects of it. So that leads you in, but that's more when you get into the deeper knowings of things. And then, so you have these different facets of cards. Now, I don't use tarot decks. I've never been called to use a tarot deck. Now, I have great friends that use tarot decks, and they're very intuitive with their tarot decks. I've always been called to use more the angel, the oracle cards, the ascendant master type cards, the angel, the fairy, those types of energies. And it's not because I haven't had the understanding of what the tarot was, but the way that my brain works, the tarot deck takes more, I'm going to call it honor of learning. Because you almost have to learn what each card represents. Yeah. Then your intuitive can go in. I can pick up a card like this and I can know what it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, in my dyslexic mode, the tarot deck kind of pushed me. It was kind of like bumper car. It pushed me the other direction. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No wrong, no right. Now with me having the tools that I have and the way that I work with my dyslexia, I feel like I could go into the tarot deck because I can see it. And I can already get a feeling for it and that's the thing, that you can pick a deck out of the card, a new deck out of the box, and it won't have any feelings with it. Mm-mm. You have to get it to be yours.
Yep.
Now, I can use this deck for reading, but I make it clear. I'm pulling the deck for so-and-so first.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm doing it for me so the cards know. Now, cards have guides with them. They have energy with them. And as we work through things and as we go through things, there's a lot of people now that won't use the Doreen Virtue cards because of the way that they think that she's still attached to the cards because she's changed so much. Well, no, these cards have been mine for 20 years. Why am I going to change? What? They're not hers anymore. These guides are with me since I got this deck. And that's part of the whole trusting that inner voice. And like I tell people, the difference between trusting what the cards are telling you and what your mind is telling you is the first thing you hear. Because the thing is, your guides are the ones that are going to be the pop in. They're going to say, oh, this means da 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 da. And then your mind's going to go, well, that doesn't make any sense. That my life's not showing me that. Da, 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 da. But if you really look at the in between, that's what people always come to me and they say, how did you get that out of what I told you in my life? Because I've always seen the back door, the in-between door, the message between it's like they say, how did you put everything that I just told you into one bag? And now it makes sense to me why everything's happening in my life.
I've never heard, this is the first I've heard that there's, besides tarot cards, that there's other kind of cards.
Oh, yeah.
But you just said there was.
There's many tools. There's stones. You can use stones for the same vibration. You can use pendulums. You can use, I mean, you can, if you look around my room here, how many tools do I have? It's like there's so many tools. I mean, if I could take you a tour around this room and say, I even have a crystal ball over there. It's just, and I look at it actually over my computer, and it doesn't mean anything besides me spending time. Like I got stones that if I look into it, it sends me into another world, and that's the difference between how do you use your tools? How do you use your tool?
Yeah.
We are a tool too.
So Natasha, though, I mean, the whole thing about people coming to readings is they just want to get some answers to things in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with what you do as a medium, though, I mean, most of the time now you just ask the guides and the guides will tell you what they need to know, and you don't need cards and you don't need any of that stuff, right? Because what you do is just another way, and cards is another way. And like, in other words, depending on your client, you can figure out which tool is the best one that they.
Exactly. Now, there's some sessions that I will start a deck. I'll start off with a card deck. A lot of times when I'm doing phone sessions, and they're the first of the day, sometimes I use my decks to get in tuned better with that person. It's just one of my ways of just pulling my humanness out of where I've been at.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I'll be doing a session and I'll hear cards because the person will need a visual to what I've just said to them because, we're not all here. We don't all learn from what we hear. Many times we're visual learners, we're doer learners. And so sometimes if I kind of fold in these different ways of sending the message, and I'll say that, do you remember back when in the session I told you about da-da-da? Well, this card represents, and then I'll elaborate more by, what that one card represents.
Well, like what Kayla's doing, would using the cards be a good way for someone who wanted to start developing their psychic abilities? You work with the cards, and then after a while, it just becomes intuitive, and you don't need the cards anymore. So like Kayla doing what she just did this week was a good step for her to start trusting what she sees and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I said, after I did the first reading, I didn't have to do anymore.
Wow.
Because I was so into
really cool.
To everyone there. I was like, this, I just all came out. It just all flew out naturally. But for your death card, Regan, that I want to give you were right. Some of them do have skulls. But on my card on the bottom, it says child of great transformation.
Okay.
So it means change. It could mean death, depending on the person or people in that particular time. But usually it's the beginning of new, the end of old.
Okay, yeah. So I did a dream class for learning exchange years ago, and when people would talk to me about their dreams and say, well, they got shot in their dream or they whatever killed, and I soon realized, I said, well, that doesn't mean a physical death. That's the death of an old consciousness, you know, like tornadoes. I know I used to have tornadoes in my dreams once in a while, and in the dreams I would run for cover and hide and everything because it was so scary. And then once I learned that tornadoes were, it's like ripping up your old self so a new one could be there. I remember the last few times I had a tornado in my dream, I ran to the middle of them and just went and just let myself be.
And that's the trick. That's the trick, because one of the best ways to cleanse ourselves is in a meditation. I do this where you go down the path and you stand at the edge and you have the waterfall of a tornado. And then you basically metaphorically strip yourself. So because you want to be as naked as you can be, and you step in. As you're stepping in, you have the intention of what do you want to release.
Oh, wow, I could feel that.
Yeah, and then you stand in the middle, and that's the thing about energy. If we learn to stand in the middle of the tornado, many a times we can be out of the chaos of the energy.
Yeah.
What is in the center of a tornado? It's calm.
Yeah.
It's the calm. A hurricane, it's the calm. And if we can stand in there. So then as you're standing there and you're seeing all the things that you let go of flying around you, you really analyze what value do they really have. And you really sit there and you just kind of, in a moment, just analyze and witness what's being released. Many times it's like I can see dogs, I can see children, I can see toys, I can see these different things, and toys represent, I mean, big boys, big kids, girls have toys. I mean, it's not necessarily, anything representative. And you sit and you watch it go. And then as you have the intention as leaving, because in a meditation, you always want to go out the same way you came in, but you can walk out the other side of the tornado, of the waterfall. I like water because water is about emotion, and air is about movement. But there's something about the cleansing of water, especially if you go up in the mountains and you stand in the ions of you feel the ions of the water, that it's very enriching. That you move through that and you go through the other side and you feel yourself become the new, because you've let go the death of the old to walk into the new. And as you move forward through that you find that your new self, and then you look down and you see, what are you wearing? And it's amazing what new you are wearing again. And as you walk through and you feel that new walking through, and you can feel yourself almost being more complete, because as you go through the death process, I always feel like whenever I go through the death process, I always say, I'm coming home. It's like I'm getting a piece of myself, because that death process is that releasing what I held out so it can come home.
Wow. Well, I had when I assist people in going to the afterlife, and when they go to a past life and they've had a really difficult time, when they get to the other side and there's a guide there, one of the first things I ask them is, I'll say, so and so here just had a really difficult life. Would they benefit by going to a place of rejuvenation or a place of healing? And one of the most popular places people go and experience is there's always like a waterfall, lots of water, and they find themselves standing under the waterfall and just feeling themselves being cleansed of their pain and that. But there's always seems to be water around. Although I did have one where she was in the middle of the desert and she laid down in the sand, and that was unusual. But then we asked the guide, why the sand? They said, well, the sand was like a purifier, just like when you have a sand filter for your swimming pool, you go, all that energy or all that water goes through the sand, and the sand cleans it, and the clean water comes back out in the pool. So that was interesting. And for a while it was uncomfortable. And then she loved it. She said she could just feel this sand just filtering all the blackness out of her, all this stuff, so
Well, and that's Mother Earth energy too. And what is Mother Earth here to do for us? To help us move forward.
Yeah. Well, that would be a great spiritual exercise, what you just mentioned, is to have clients just picture this vortex of energy and standing in the center of it, like a tornado. If they're picturing it, now there were just a technical part from a researcher's curiosity. Would it be good to feel the tornado going clockwise or counterclockwise? Is there
Let it be.
just whatever happens, whatever they feel?
Now, anti-clockwise is undoing. So whatever you undo, like I kind of do a medicine wheel. If you go the opposite way in the medicine wheel, anti-clockwise, or you're undoing. So if there's something I really want to undo, I undo it, but I say it with the intention of what I want to undo.
Okay.
And then I remember to go clockwise again so I can reapply what I need to do. Now, if I'm really needing to cleanse my house or cleansing someone else's house, I'll do it the opposite of clockwise. And then I'll go back and then do it clockwise with love. Yeah, because I want to undo the negative that was in the house so that I can create the balance of love in the house.
There was a person who was trying to learn how to leave the body, do out-of-body experience. And his technique was to, in his mind, to be in the middle of this vortex. And he was in the middle where there was like a tornado going right, and there was one going left, and he was in the middle of it as they were going right and left at the same time. And he said he found some success in having an out-of-body experience. That was years ago. I just remember that technique, so.
And the thing that people have found is that the more grounded you are, the easier it is to leave your body.
Yeah. The more
because then you know that you're doing it and it's intentional. Channeling, the more grounded you are, the better you channel. The more grounded you are, the more you can interact with the spirits around you. The vibration of being more grounded. I can always tell when I do spiritual work that's part of me using cards when I first do my first session of the day. A lot of times I'll do the cards because that brings me to here on the table what I'm doing. So I'm more grounded with being the physical thing I'm doing instead of being so spiritual out there.
Oh, hey, Kevin, in growing up Lutheran.
Yeah.
I just thought of this. I think the Christian version of the tarot cards is because I've been with some Christians and they believed in this, where they would have a problem and they would just flip through the Bible and not look, and they would just push their finger down onto something that's in the Bible. And then would they read that and then get an answer to their problem or issue that way. So isn't that basically the same thing, Natasha? Is they're just it's just another vehicle, but within their belief system that God's going to, show them that. And then I got to think about that any book that's written wisdom, that I think every sentence, if you touch any sentence, that it within that one sentence is the whole, so it doesn't matter where they go in there and whatever sentence they get to, that one sentence will somehow connect to the whole of the whole book or the whole wisdom of the book. And so that they can see something that'll help them, That's just my thought.
Regan, it's the same thing as if you pose a question to yourself and then go turn on the radio. A lot of times, the music that comes on will be in direct reference to the question you had.
Yeah. Isn't that how Neil Diamond Walsh wrote the Conversation with God? He would pose the question and sit there, and then he would that's how he wrote the book?
All three of them. Well, he's probably got 15 of them now. God? Well, because what he did was he was having a particularly bad day. He got up at 4:00 in the morning, and he had a yellow pad in front of him, and he liked to doodle on the yellow pad and write stuff. So he wrote, "What does it take to make this life work? I don't care what it is. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it." And he heard a voice that said, "Do you really want answers to these questions, or are you just venting?" And that led to the entire book, Conversations with God. Matter of fact, I played that interview today. Natasha, it's really good. The interview that I played with him, because it was way back when in 2003 during the Iraq War, but his points of view on a lot of stuff was really right on. but that's how he did it, and he channeled that. And these two, I'm convinced, anytime that they chose to, can do the same thing. They can sit down with a pad and do what's called automatic writing. Correct?
I have.
Yeah. So and
There it is right there.
and Kayla's doing that now. So we get communicated with in any way that they think will be effective, that we can hear them. And if it's, be it writing, be it music, be it, and by the way, I wanted to mention to you, when you're doing a session, you're channeling what the other side wants you to ask them when you're doing your sessions with them. That's why you don't remember it. When I do interviews with people, I'm channeling that in many cases, because I don't remember what I asked them, and people will ask me, "How did you come up with that question?" Fuck, I don't know. I just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
And so we all can do that in our own way.
Well,
And we all do it in our own way.
Right.
It's just being the difference between me and someone else is that it's like mine is intentionally there to support, to help. It's
Right.
also that I don't mess around with it. It's like there's the discernment. You know, I have to be careful about how I give information because you don't know how somebody's going to receive it. And it's not my responsibility how they receive it. Now I get that. Yet, if I'm out of sync with the delivery of it, it can really shift how they receive it. And that's the difference. Now, Kayla, you found that you were in sync with them receiving it.
Mhm.
Now, if you checked in with somebody, you might have known that there's a couple times where you got a little bit more on, like you pushed on the gas pedal a little bit too much and they went, wait a minute. And then you kind of had that feeling and you kind of took your foot off the gas pedal so that you can be more in alignment with what was in front of you. And so there's that discernment button. There's that knowing of when to push the gas pedal down hard or just lighten up. Like I love doing sessions with people who are intuitive because it's like we go boom, 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 boom. I just need to be the doorway, because of their humanness is in the way. And then there's people who have never had a session before. And I love doing those because it's like, it's just that getting their meat going, it's just getting the meat going. But Veronica had a note about, she had a dream.
I once had a dream where there was a terrible earthquake. Oh, I've had that one. I was the only thing left standing. It scared me really bad. I went through some major changes in my life after that dream, some good and some bad.
That was an uplifting one right there then.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that people always think that change is going to have all cookies and cream to it. Oh gosh, no. Change is part of shadow work. It's that digging up the in between. It's like when I was doing the change for how I looked at technology, I got so angry I blew a hole in the aura of my house. And well, that I was meant to actually blow the whole aura of the house open so I can be who I am today with technology and all that. But yet, do you think that that I didn't spend the 4 hours giving myself a migraine because I scream? I have not gotten that mad. There's only been a couple times where I saw the inner part of my heart pounding that heavy, and it was like. And so with that we go there to go where we need to go. But the earthquake, so basically you standing alone, sweetie, is about that the journey is personal. You have to do it personally. Otherwise, if you get caught up in other people's stories about how you're perceived, how they perceive you, how they're doing this and how they're doing that, that when we're standing alone after a dream like that, it's amazing how when we come back to ourselves, how can I walk through my life moving forward with my own truth, with my own truth, not the truth, not a truth, but a truth. And we can do that. So if you look at though, that bad was that shakeup to bounce you off into going where you needed to go. Because if you go through the negative parts of life, you go, oh, I don't want to go there. and that kind of thing. And I know for the last 20 years that I've seen you, or let's see, we've been together, what, 10 years now? Yeah, 10, 15 years now, that I have seen such an immense change in you, that if that earthquake was keeping you going, hooray, because you're magical now. It's just where you were so stuck in life and just kind of in the 3D world when I first hooked up with you. And there's just this knowings, and I'm not going to get into personal stuff, but there's just amazingness of how you shaking your life up has led you to your walking over the shakes, walking over what life is doing to you. It's that walking on top of earth instead of in the earth. And it's not about grounding. It's about it's like you can either drown into the emotions, let the waves of the emotions come over you, or you can learn to be on the surfboard on top of them and riding on top. Like my guides told me through somebody, Natasha, you have wings, use them. You don't need to get into the muck of it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't have to. I may feel it, I may sense it, I may interact with it, but I don't have to be in it and take it on.
I think too, when we have those dreams like that, it's God's way of preparing the subconscious for the change. So it's not so, in other words, on a certain level, your subconscious is like, oh, I understand this. We're coming up with a bunch of change. And then the human self has it. But since the subconscious has been prepared already, it's not quite as much of a shock. Also too, just in the last few weeks and a few of the life between life sessions where I've had people visit where they go between lives, wonderful sessions. Just they got all the bells and whistles. They got answers to all their questions over there. But then when they gave me some feedback a week or two later, and they go, "Wow, my life is kind of been starting to become a little topsy turvy," and I would tell them, I said, "Well, that's because you got more light coming in now, and so the old ways that your old self is going to have to you're going to have to let go of the old self because you're ready for the new self." So sometimes that means a change in job or a change in friends, or there's things that happen in their life that don't work for them anymore. And so they're a little shocked by that, but I try to explain to them, and they eventually realize that's a good thing. You just had this beautiful experience with God, and now you know more. So you've got to start walking on a higher plane in a sense.
And I usually give that FYI at the end of my sessions.
Yeah, and I need to do that more too.
Because it's that now, and I tell them that, while you were sitting here, you've gone through a complete change. And not everybody I tell this to, because it depends on what I see in their vibration.
Yeah.
And remember, though, that the people that you've interacted with weren't sitting here with you. And so just be gentle with yourself, be gentle with others. Life is going to be changing around you. So just trust that process, and just know that this is a time to evaluate. Is this for my greater good or not? And it depends on who I'm sitting with, depends on what the language is. But it's that doorway. Like one time I was in Hawaii and I got this image of my life, which was kids, alcoholic husband, chaos. And I was in this Doreen Virtue, Hawaii, Pele, all this awareness. I mean, I short-circuited 5 kiosks because my energy was so high, that I had to finally do Reiki on somebody. And they said my hands were so powerful because I was such a vibration. So what I saw was a tube, a clear tube, me being on the plane and me being at one end and me starting to head towards my life, and my life coming and meeting me, so that it got to integrate into me as I moved back to it. So then when I moved into the vibration of, let's say, coming into my house and the TV was going and the kids were running around, and that vibration would have had been so static to me that I actually could be in there because that energy was merging with my new truth that I had. And when I did, and that just is a way to picture it, so that when we go through that life-altering change, which always can be good, like Kayla, that was a life-altering experience you went through on Saturday, right? So it was magical. So when we go through that, we still have to come back to reality.
Yeah, it's taken me 2 days to come back to reality. Like
Yeah.
I was completely charged at 11 a.m. and by 7:30 I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go home.
Mm-hmm.
These past 2 days, yesterday all I did was sleep. Today I've lounged around, cooked my nephews, my son, my daughter food, and I've watched TV. Because I've just so physically my battery is drained. So I
Okay.
need to learn how to keep my battery going without giving everybody, because when we did the whole break at 7:30, everybody took my energy at 7:30. I didn't keep
Ah. So there again is discernment.
Mhm.
And the one thing that I always use is their battery. If they want me to do the work, they give me the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing about me is that when I come in from my house and doing my work, when I'm going to be sitting here, it's like I sit into the tube. I just picture the tube, whatever tube it is. It's just the vibration of energy here. It's the connection between Father Sky and Mother Earth. And the only reason why I say Father Sky because it's opposite of Mother Earth. It's not because it's right or wrong, Mother Moon or whatever. It's just the language I use. And so with that, so wherever I'm at, I picture that tube moving with me. But there's certain places where that tube is more charged. And this is one of them. And so with that, when I use that tube, that's their energy coming through me. That's their energy coming through me to the people. Not me. It's their energy.
Yeah.
I'm the conduit.
Yeah, I've
But
been
that's
finding
that.
that out a lot lately.
Mm-hmm. And so
Because
that's why. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Natasha.
No, but that's why I'm so good. People always say at the fairs, why are you looking like you did when you first came in? Because it's that energy field there. And it's just us learning. But remember the discernment, because that's the boundaries. I always use that mantra. What's yours is yours. What's mine is mine. What stands between me and you is, I just say love. I see pink color. I see blue color. I see the rainbows, and I just let that be, because that love energy just can change everything. But it's the boundary. Because what I always picture like the Mother Mary aura picture. You see pictures of her with the aura. That one thing I've noticed is like when I'm working, I have like the outer parts of me. That's the energy where I'm like at school. The outer aura. You go into the Catholic churches and you see those pictures of her having all these different things around her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was in grief, things were getting in thin. They were getting really in tight. And I was like going, wait a minute, this is my energy. This is my core energy. This is my core that I can get up with. This is my battery, my personal battery. And so when I got healthier, I pushed those things that were zapping me out further so that I can keep my core energy. But that's that vulnerability piece. When you're going through a life-altering change, it's hard to feel that protection because we're so raw. And so with that, and that's the way I picture it. Okay, what level are they at in my energy field? Oh, wait a minute. That's wait a minute. This isn't right. That's you. You can't take from me, even though they're my energy. It's kind of a combination. It's sometimes I do things it's hard for me to put it into words, but I hope that made sense.
Well, what I realized just now too, it seems like, whether Kayla's doing her cards or you're doing your session or I'm doing my sessions, when we reach a point where we're surrendered to the higher self in a way and let our ego out of the way and just let things flow, that's when really magic happens. And I realized when I was a comedian all those years, I remember one time I was in Las Vegas. It was at a spiritual convention and had people from all over the world there. It was about five. It was at the Aladdin Theater for Performing Arts. Had 5,000 people in the audience. Well, I had a 10-minute routine I was doing, and it was as a ventriloquist. I had a little talking dog, Harvey, and we were supposed to teach some spiritual principles in a humorous way. So about halfway through the routine, over the loudspeaker here, the the head person there, that was the one everybody there went to see, and speaker started harassing me and my dog on stage. And what I was so in the flow that everything he said, I had an immediate response to, and people were laughing so hard they were crying. And it was like I was just in that flow. And I always remember to this day, it was like having 5,000 people laughing so hard, and the love that I felt being dumped over me as I was performing. It was one of the neatest times of my life, but it was because I was totally in the flow, you know. So in other words, the inspiration for the comedy that came was exactly what needed to be said. Because I remember thinking when my dog would answer something and people are laughing, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, where'd you get that from? Like, come on, right? You know, it was like he was such a real person to me, or this real character. Because I'm thinking, me, Regan, I could have never thought of that. But this innocent little dog that has this heart of gold, you know, that part of me that was him, you know, would just think of the perfect thing. And I remember we ended up singing, I forget what song it was, with an orchestra back there, which was a really heartfelt, sweet thing coming from this little character, you know, and then getting a standing ovation. So that was like that was back in the, I think, early 80s sometime. And I'm just realizing, so for people to feel love in their life, and to have days that just flow, where everything just seems to fit in place and you just feel wonderful, to have the experience like each of us have when we do a session for people. People can have that in their lives by just declaring themselves as a vehicle for spirit when they wake up, and just saying, I'm going to go through the whole day loving everything,
It's
everybody,
intention.
and put love in everything I do. And for people listening to this, if you just try that experiment, you're just going to float through the day feeling like
Better.
ecstatic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's intention and perception. Intention and perception. So your intention is to walk through the day with more kindness, more love.
Yeah.
Your perception is you're going to see more kindness and love. And so when you do that, you find more sync, because that is almost like the energy flow. I call that spirit. And that's the energy field that runs between us, that runs in the air. It's the chi, it's the feng shui energy. It's spirit. It's the movement of passion. It's the movement of spirit, you
Yeah.
know? And spirits can be in the spirit flow, but that's that flow of just, and spirit gives us the inspiration. And that's where people who sit in a room by themselves, they don't feel energy, because the spirit flow energy isn't with them. But if they open up a window, they might feel a little bit more flow, because that energy flows with them. And so that's the difference between working. Like with you felt a lot of spirit, Kayla, spirit energy, because you were with a group of people. You were outside too, which helps a little bit. You know, like you, Regan, when you're in a session, you feel that spirit energy flow. And like you, Kevin, when you are when you're in the session of doing, you know, when you're talking with somebody, there is, even though they're on the other line, you're feeling like the figure eight of spirit swinging around both of you and doing the dance, which gives you both inspiration. And you know, like I was watching one of your talks, and I could tell when spirit slowed down, because she was detaching. You know, she was losing her belief in herself about how she was going to talk. And so spirit slowed down a little bit, and you wanted to keep it going, but she was kind of out of the flow. And when we have spirit that moves like that, we can really see, oh, my timing is getting off. Maybe it's time for me to leave. Maybe it's time for this conversation to stop, because the spirit flow shifts and it moves off. And then it's like we're getting out of sync with the flow of where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's being in the flow. And Kevin, you know what you said about the song thing? When
Yeah.
I was met my second wife at clown school at the University of Wisconsin, and at the time that I was there, it was this beginning of this wonderful relationship. She was back east, I was out here, and we started dating long distance after we, you know, came back from clown school. And 3 times when I just surrendered, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it really feels like I'm supposed to be with her, but I would have some fear or something. And I felt myself just go, okay, God, am I really supposed to be there? And I would turn on the radio, and 3 times the song that we had picked out that had been our song came on the radio. I mean, and I just, so when that happened, I went, okay, I'm going the next step. And then I would just know that everything was okay. But that blew me away. Just
You need to tap
came
more.
right on the radio.
Go ahead, Kayla.
I said he needs to tap more into that, because that's where that intuitive empathicness and where you come into your sessions with other people. If you paid closer attention to those signs, those signals, if you see 111, on a clock, look it up. If you see a ladybug, look it up. Those are all in synchronicity to everything. Take, for example, we're all wearing blue. Anybody else notice it?
Mm-hmm.
There's synchronicity. We're all in blue. So those are things that we got to pay attention to.
Yeah.
You'll get there. I tried too hard.
That's the difference.
I'm a try too hard person. I need to just,
No, and that's
when I had that were moments when I just surrendered, and I just felt myself just let go,
Exactly. And that's the part. Does wind really do damage? When it is strong, when it's overpowering. So when we are strong and overpowering, that's when we can do damage. But if we go with the flow, the whispers of the wind, the movement of the wind, be in the elements, be the candle that flickers calmly, instead of being the roaring, forest fire, be with the elements. That does really help. And the difference, people always kind of label our egos negative. I always say egos are great as long as they learn to sit back down.
Yeah.
It's like we got to tell them, sit back down, be part of the team. But that's part of that. Let ego kind of give you the guts to say it, and then ask it to sit back down so that it can be in the flow of what does the team want you to tell? What does the team want to do? And that's the difference between you, Regan, sitting here and you doing your sessions, is that Regan, the man, is sitting here. Regan, the therapist, Regan, the one that's in spirit, is doing the sessions.
Yeah.
But those two can interweave and be one.
Yeah. I'm working on
And
it.
that's and it's just practice makes better. I don't like practice is perfection. It's practice makes better. It's just trusting that part of you, because we're all intuitive. How do we use it? What do we do? Because I know that I check with my intention whenever I open my mouth. Now I do it more unconsciously than I do consciously, but I'm very careful about how I interact, because I know that my vibration can be impactful. Sometimes it is just standing there looking at someone and sending love is just as impactful as walking over and talking to them.
So, Kayla, what have you been writing this whole time?
Well, I didn't write too much, but I did have something for Regan that came through to me, and it's your great grandmother. And it was an image that she gave me of her swaddling you, but booping you on the nose, like what the elderly lady would do, or the elderly ladies and back in the day would do. And then I got that recently she's left you some dimes and pennies.
I was going to say coins.
Dimes and pennies, huh?
Yeah.
What can I do with that?
It's just
some gold bars.
You know that she's there though, or the smell of her perfume or something. But yeah, she gave me an image of just booping you on the nose at the beginning, and it was just really cute because it took me back to you being little, So I pictured little baby swaddled Regan here.
Now, would that have been my grandmother, or because I knew my grandmothers, but I never ever met my great grandmothers. But
yeah, I have a grandmother, so it's either great or grandmother.
Okay, somebody in my line there, yeah, because I've had people in the afterlife, and they meet grandparents that they never got to meet in the physical, and they say it was wonderful, that they got to meet some extra relatives that are there on the other side, rooting for them,
She also gives you a moment of calm. Yeah, she also gives you a moment of calm when you feel that, like that, just overall. She's one that helps you with that.
Hmm.
She's your breath. She helps you with breath. That moment of just, when you just get that peace over you. She's been there for you for quite a while. She was actually part of your spirit team.
Yeah, I always look at that in
Sorry,
dream.
Kayla, I added on there. I apologize.
Well, dream one. Thank you guys for double teaming me here. I always get that in a dream when people are getting change from somebody that's benevolent in their dreams. That's just a good sign. That's like, that's a
Pennies
gift.
from heaven.
Change to use for some spiritual gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Kayla and Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty cool. So, what are you going to do with all that information there, Regan?
Gosh, I'm just trying to think. I feel like I have everything I need, but I could use that little change for even more. One time when I was at a warrior monk training where we did 7 days of intensive spiritual work, and they put me in a room and said, okay, you're to meditate until we knock on the door. And they gave me a little pitcher of water. And I just got into the first thing I did, I started doing meditation. And the first thing I saw, I was pulling a slot machine, and it came up like boom, boom, boom. And all these gold coins came out. And I knew it was telling me at that time, just keep on doing what they said. And you're going to get all these, there's going to be rewards in this. And then there was a knock on the door, and it was 36 hours later. That was one of the most intense, most beautiful experiences I ever had. And that's because I just set the intent, and it just, some of the meditations that I had there, at one point, it was so deep in there. I had people come before me one by one of people that I had done something negative to in this life. And I felt the emotional pain that I'd caused them. And it just was one right after the other, seemed like to go on for a long time. But it was great because I felt like, wow, this is great that I'm able to really see, and that I'm able to, in a sense, release that karmic stuff by feeling the emotional pain that I caused other people. So it was very healing. Wasn't a bad experience at all, So those gold coins that I got, that I saw, was amazing. It really proved to be true. So we'll see what happens with these dimes and pennies and nickels that I just got.
Well, Regan, you've been going down this road for a very long time.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way, but you've been doing this for what, 30 years?
Well, it kind of started when I was 23, when I had my first out of body experience
Well, that's about right. About 30 years.
Yeah. So, oh my God, 72. So maybe 50 years ago. But I didn't really.
You didn't have to say you were 50 or 72.
I really woke up when I was in my early 40s. And that's when I decided to do something about my anger issues and do shadow work, where I actually was not afraid to look at the crap that I was hanging on to, and started intently, doing some work seriously. And then my whole life just got amazingly better,
Well, good for you. Good for you. Ladies, I think we need to wrap this up so that you guys can go have dinner now. Or make dinner, as the case may be.
My husband was gone for 4 days. It was fine. It's so nice.
Oh, you had Rice Krispies and milk for 4 days.
No, I had celery and peanut butter, and I made chicken and rice.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go. Kayla, thank you for sitting in with us today. It was a pleasure. It was
fun. Well, and look at all we learned just in the last week with all of us, so hopefully people watching this realize that it's an ongoing process, so just look back at the week before and look at all the things you learned, and everybody can start seeing that we're all progressing,
Mm-hmm. And guess what card I got?
What is it?
New home.
Oh.
So it's not necessarily a new home. It's probably a new home. So if we trust and keep walking forward, moving is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. When I would have out-of-body experiences through this 40, 50-year time when I'm dreaming or praying or whatever, and there's a guide there, they would always say, come here, I want to show you your new home. Mm-hmm. And then we would walk through it, and it would be exciting because the home was decorated different, or the walls were different. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love my new home, and then there was always pictures on the wall of some of the vices that I needed to kind of start getting under control, and the guide would just say, look at the pictures. And I'd look over at the guide and go, oh, okay, I got you, and it was just always helpful. And that's what we find when people that visit the afterlife on the other side, the guides over there are nothing but 100% benevolent, loving, kind, and all they're doing is trying to help you to wake up to be a better person, So it's great.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that
people can reach me at visittheafterlife.com. My name's Regan, and there's some videos on there. There's a process through the Newton Institute that I'm one of the 250 around the world, and we anywhere in the world now, either through online or in-person sessions, we have a process we take you through that's very easy. 90% of the people are successful with accessing past lives and then actually going where you go between lives, which some people call heaven. And you can spend hours there asking questions, getting help, getting healings. And we're just letting the world know that there's this process now that God has let us discover. So happy to help anybody. And what about you, Natasha?
They can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. And I enjoy doing exactly what I was doing here, just supporting someone moving from point A to point B, moving forward, finding grace for themselves. There's so much inner mind work that people are going through, that their minds are telling them opposite of what their life is trying to show them. And I love to bring that out and give a different perspective on that. That may be through past life work, mediumship work, just intuitive guide work. It depends on what bag comes forward. So I just want people to know that whatever your mind is telling you, that's half of what the spirit world actually wants you to do. Because your mind's going to be more negative than the spirit. The spirit world it will always be more positive for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something to be said for getting out of your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kayla?
Did you know we have 3 minds?
The
mind, the heart mind, and the digestive mind. That's another conversation. So Kayla,
I just want everybody to remember that we're like a river, and a river only flows in one direction. We can't go backwards, so only keep pushing forward, because that's
very
what
good.
we do. So, and I'm just going to be me, being me. I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't look good being somebody else.
I hope not. This is just mom comfy clothes. You can tell I work from home right now. Been running around with kids, so.
Yeah, well, it's good for you to be you. You can't be anybody else. That's just the way it goes. And I'd like to thank you guys for being here, because this is a lot of fun for people who are listening, and you're providing some real good information that can be helpful to people in the future.
thank you, Kevin, for putting this on, because without you, I love, even though you felt like you just sat there, you were a big part of this. So thank you.
No, I didn't feel like I just sat here. I just sat here.
You
hold the space more than you ever think you know. So thank you.
But it's perfectly all right, because I would just assume you guys talk about what you're doing. I already know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This is all about the mission. So you guys have a wonderful day. And Regan, thank you very much. I don't know that you know how much we appreciate you. I just wanted to say that. Well,
I appreciate you guys too.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good, because we've been doing this now for about 6 months, haven't we?
You're longer, sir.
Yes.
Since
we're almost coming out on a year, aren't we?
Coming close.
Okay.
And so tell your friends. Hold on. Somebody made a comment. Oh, that's very nice of you to say, Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you.
And you, Veronica, have a wonderful night too. And thank you for listening to this whole thing. It was worth having you here. So
there was.
So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week at 4:00 on Monday.
See you next week.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.